That's why.
You are tuned into the sounds of Urban X.
I hope he wins. Let me say that. I hope he wins.
Yeah.
But, you know, I've seen too many cases where these lawyers, you know, they put it in. And, you know, corporations is taking over everything we see.
Yeah.
So it wouldn't surprise me if, you know, I digress.
So last Friday, Meek Mill's album Championships dropped.
Thanks, Carl Ogilvy. Appreciate the love.
There was a few other people who sent us.
Yeah.
We didn't get to you. We apologize.
We appreciate the support. So yeah, the Meek Mill album dropped. What'd you think?
So it was 19 songs.
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I do with all long albums, if they were shorter, they would be way better. But I gave it, out of 10, 7.5.
I gave it, I think, an 8.5.
I liked it.
You know what I'm saying? I really liked it.
Yeah, I did.
Why did you like the album?
First, his content seemed to be more reflective of what he's been going through in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
He talked a lot. He's always painted a lot of stories, and when he raps, a lot of his hood stories, like the Tony stories, those from like the Dream Chasers mixtapes. But this, since he did do some jail time, he did talk about that. He talked about a lot of, you know, mental health has been a thing this year. It's been like a real big topic this year. And he talked about he talked about like PTSD just from living in the hood, because a lot of people don't like to count that.
Yeah, but that counts.
That
counts. Yes.
He had some club hits, for the ladies and things like that. So I appreciated it. And then his samples, I really liked his sample choices. I was a little concerned that it was too many samples, and it wasn't even real samples, because samples is, when you talk about like music samples, it's like the drum here,
right,
the bass here. But it was actually like the whole beat, and they just added some drums.
Yeah. They just kind of remixed it, so to speak. You know what I'm saying?
So I was a little concerned that it was too much of that going on.
What's the first one? Paul Simon?
Phil Collins.
Phil Collins. Why do I always keep?
Yeah, I don't.
That Phil Collins. That has a special place in my heart.
I love that. Yeah, I love that one.
Because I used to have you play that before every football game you played to get you motivated. I thought they did a really good job in his growth. Yeah. Like we talked about this last Thursday, what we wanted, and I just wanted growth because he's not that old. You know what I mean? He's a young guy from Philadelphia whose post-traumatic syndrome has experienced a lot, but now he's given answers and a narrative to what he's saying. Yep. I can really, really appreciate that. Now, I'm not 25 years old, so his experiences are not my experiences, but I respect his music.
Yeah, and you always say that you want to learn something from people.
Every album, I want to learn something about you and your experiences.
And I felt like
I've learned more about his story, him being behind bars, him not having his father. You know what I'm saying? All of the things he spoke about, the hunger, seeing young people die, how it scarred him, right? And this is important when you begin to lay your album out. So I gave it an 8.5, maybe a 9, because the Jay-Z verse kind of...
Slow down.
The Jay-Z verse kind of...
So you might be living in the moment.
Took that shit, you know what I mean?
That has to be, because we're going to talk about the Jay-Z verse in a little bit, but... It has to be annoying that you put in so much work and then people just keep talking about this one verse from somebody who...
But when it's Jay-Z, what can you do?
True.
You knew that when you said you wanted Jay-Z on your album.
True.
Nigga, you had to know that.
True.
Unless your name is Nas or one of these dudes who can go bar for bar, where niggas might say, all right, Jay, Jay, took a L on that, because I think on Run This Town, Kanye got Jay on that joint.
Oh, I wrote for Kanye.
What?
Whoever
wrote. To me, his verse. So there are opportunities there. But if I say, yo, Jay, I need you to get on this joint, I took an L. In most cases, especially if Jay is trying to use your shit as a platform to talk to other people, right? Mm-hmm. And if he respects you enough, it's a wrap for your ass.
All right, so
how does that translate to sales for you?
No, it translates perfect for him.
And plus, Meek Mill knows he's not on Jay-Z's level, right? So I call in the big homie for a favor.
Yeah.
That's all that is. When I come out with my new album, I'm giving Jay a call.
First, I heard the track. I was like, oh, this is where they're going with it. I was nervous.
Okay.
Not gonna lie, I was nervous.
Yeah.
Biggie, that's one of my all-time favorites. So I was nervous. I'm like,
nervous.
All right. And then Meek, he hit with the chorus, and then Ross went. Ross just raps really, really well.
He does.
Ross is so nice. Dude.
It's his voice. It's his cadence. It's his ability to paint pictures with words.
Like, if you don't feel like you...
Come from on the street, grab a
got a bottle of Bel Air next to you. Yeah, come on.
So Shorty's giving me head on the Yeah.
So he just raps. He sounds like really expensive when he raps. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So Ross goes, Meek goes, Meek and both of them got off as well, right? So then I'm looking at my phone. I see it's like 1:20 left.
It's actually 2:22.
2:22.
2:22 is left. I'm gonna speak about that because that's half of 444.
Okay,
but
so
let's just
2:22 is left. So I'm like, yo, it's a lot of song left. He gonna let Jay get off? Like, he gonna let him take him home like that? I was like, oh, I bet. And then he got on and started talking 3/5 of the minute. I was like, ooh,
yeah.
Ooh, he started I didn't know and I'm a Jay-Z fan, but I'm also I'm a Jay-Z critic as well, right? Because I don't like when people. Everything Jay-Z does is okay, because sometimes it really ain't.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Did you hear the way he breathed?
Yeah.
Before he said his rhyme? That breathe had to mean something. That breath of air wasn't just a breath of air, son. He was preparing. Stop all that shit.
So, but I'm definitely a fan, so I really appreciated it. It definitely was the hardest verse on the album. Yeah. It
might be the hardest verse of the year, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Couple in there.
Yeah.
Excuse me.
Definitely.
Is it my turn?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay. I'm a Jay-Z fan, but I'm not a Jay-Z stan. Big difference, right?
Okay.
I'm a fan. I love his music, but like I said, I'm not a stan. Everything this nigga do is the greatest.
Oh, it was also his birthday.
Yeah, it was his birthday.
Tuesday.
Yes. Right, the 4th, right? Turned 49 or 13 3 times. All depending how you see it. Right, so I am a Jay-Z fan, not a stan.
Okay.
If you follow my history for 20 years, I've been praising the vocals and this and that, but I've been also delivering criticism where I feel criticism is due, right? So, this particular song, first of all, they're using the Biggie track.
Yes.
So they're resurrecting Biggie's energy by opening with Ross, who is supposed to be the second coming of Biggie, according to P. Diddy.
And according to him, he also said that. On,
right. He has characteristics of Biggie. He's not Biggie, but he has characteristics of Biggie. So let's get into some of that. Meek represents a young Biggie and Jay. You know what I'm saying? Coming up in the hood, talking about his struggling, selling drugs. Remember, before Jay-Z reached this level, this was a young Jay-Z. You know what I mean? And a young Biggie. Reason Moved Out was from a boss's perspective, and Ready to Die was from a street level perspective. When you combine the two, I see what Meek could become.
Okay.
Right?
All right. I'll ride with you on that one.
Following the narrative, Jay-Z is the end of the story. He knew Biggie personally. He rolled with Biggie.
And then if you also on the actual track was beef, Biggie shouted at the commission, which would have been him and Jay.
Absolutely, him and Jay as the commission.
Yes.
Right.
Yep.
So Biggie track, a story has a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Okay.
The beginning of the story, Rick Ross is selling drugs. He made no crime. He didn't try to add no messages in that shit, right?
That's true.
The middle of the story dealt with pain, struggle, hardship, shit you need to overcome. That was Meek Mill, right? He was selling. He went to jail, trying to get his life together. Yeah. Jay-Z represents the billionaire, the one who has, at the end of the story, we like to see our heroes win. So Jay-Z's verse was the win. And that's just, how I saw it. Now let's get into the verse a little bit more.
Okay.
Right? Some of the things Jay-Z said in the verse I had a problem with.
Good.
He spoke about gentrification.
Which was funny.
Because his ass is the one that put the Barclays Center in Brooklyn and moved all of those fucking people out of their homes in downtown Brooklyn. right? So as he spoke of gentrification,
let's keep it funky.
Found it, just a little hypocritical.
Let's keep it funky.
Right now, let me first state that the verse was the dopest verse of the year.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah.
But there are layers to this. I couldn't be Black Dot if I just gave you some surface shit. I gotta peel a little bit, right? So the gentrification situation pissed me off because they used Jay-Z.
Yeah.
Who owned less than 1%.
And it was when he was like really pumping that he owned.
When he really was pumping that he owned that shit.
He owned less than 1%.
He owned less than 1%. Yeah. They put his ass out there with ratting and all them fucking Jews behind him. These same Jews he's talking about. That he's not their fucking
puppet.
Mm-hmm. Right? But you was their puppet when the Barclays Center had to go down. Let's just keep it a buck. Right? You had your suit on. I saw you and shit with your red tie or whatever, fucking cutting the ribbon and all that shit. And those people, said again?
And then he have like 1%?
Yeah, less than 1%. And you moved all them fucking people out of their home.
Yeah.
Right? Now, a couple of statements he made in the verse. I'm not going to go through every shit. The red hat. When you juxtapose the letters of red hat, we're talking hatred. Same letters. Right? So the red hat represents hatred. Keep that in mind. He mentioned you're not gonna Prince.
Michael and Prince,
me and Ye.
Yeah.
Right? Michael and Prince, they had their differences. Yeah. Right? And then, talked about DNA and I guess he would be Prince. I heard Joe Button talk about that because, Jay-Z's always pumping up Prince lately in his songs. He spoke also about all the things that he owned. So all the 3/5 of a slave shit, all that shit was beautiful.
Yeah, that was ill.
Spoke about the projects and eating chitlins and ingesting.
He said he owns Tidal, but didn't he sell Tidal?
I think he said he owns a piece of Tidal.
Okay.
All right. Because he still owns a piece of Tidal.
All right.
So, he's speaking about his accomplishments.
But he sold like majority of it to like AT&T or something.
No, I think 33% of that went to Samsung.
Okay, that's what it was.
33. Okay, so now with that being said, the one verse again, the clever wordplay, all that shit is dope. He's still speaking about selling drugs. I have an issue with that. I have an issue with that for one reason, not because he sold drugs. We gotta move away from promoting and bigging that shit up. You are a billionaire now. The Rockefellers sold drugs.
And they bootlegged and they...
Bush, the whole Bush family, the nigga just died. He was one of the biggest drug dealers. We'll talk about him, but they don't talk about that. Right? They did what they had to do, and I understand Jay-Z's audience is a young hip-hop audience, but once you reach, in my humble opinion, because he's a billionaire, and I'm congratulating that, I'm just a thousandaire, but once you become a billionaire, right? I think the narrative and the conversation needs to change. You need to now bury that with philanthropy. You need to bury that with a new image, because to go from 1 billion to 5 to 10 billion, one thing they never talking about is drugs. And that's the DuPonts, the Kennedys, the Rothschilds, the goddamn Rockefellers, the Bush, all of them sold drugs. Drugs is as American as apple pie. But at his funeral, I'm pretty sure his son didn't get up there and say, Papa sold drugs, and then he came up. Yeah. Stop that shit, Jay-Z. Just stop it. You no longer have to do that. We know what you did. Leave that shit to Meek and them on their way up. Just my humble opinion. Let that shit go. Right? So those were just a few of the things, but the rhyme itself was dope. He spoke about the projects, because the project is an experiment in itself. It's an actual project. Yeah. You know what I mean? And some of the other things about, my grandma, they're going to have to do these things. But please do not give off the narrative that was your disposition from the beginning, because it wasn't. You know what I mean? So those are some of the issues that I had with the overall narrative of it. But I thought the verse was dope. I thought his word, and don't tell me that came off the head. Stop it. Stop it. Just stop it. Stop it. Stop it. I never wrote a rhyme down a day in my life since 1982, but it was never spontaneous, like, just rhyming whatever comes to the air. I wrote in my head. I did not need paper. My memory was tight. And what I could do is, which I don't know how he does it, but don't tell me you just stepped into the booth and that's what came to you. I'm not buying that shit. I'm not. Now, I could be in a situation where I'm putting together little 4-bar pieces in my head with no beat, just 4 bars as I'm sitting around, you know, we cooking. And then when you tell me to go to the booth, I already know I got at least 4 or 8 of these 4-bar pieces that I've been rocking to my head. And if I can sync them to the beat, you sitting there confused, because I went to school with Chris Lighty, Tim Dog, Coco from SWV, and they all witnessed me in the lunchroom. And those are the ones who passed away, not Coco, but there were other witnesses. I never came to the lunchroom at Gompers with a pen and a pad. I stood there and would handle my business because I wrote inside my head. I believe he is a head writer. But don't tell me this is just off the dome and all of that. I'm not buying none of that shit. But my final take on the verse was, I thought it was amazing. I thought it was needed. I think Jay-Z is trying his best in the field he's in to elevate the culture, but let the drug shit go. We don't need to know, and you got away scot-free.
Yeah.
You didn't get away scot-free. There's millions of people who lost their fucking life. What do you mean scot-free? From the drugs you were selling. And we used to have a term called beam me up what? Scotty. Right? So stop with the you got away scotty-free. You didn't. A lot of people have never recovered. Remember, crack is fucking generational, right? Because even if you come off crack, your children might have been crack babies and so forth and so on. So if you got away scot-free, what about all the people that you affected? Stop this shit, in my humble opinion. And with that said, I big up Young Guru. I hit him up. Appreciate the sonic production was amazing. You know what I mean? And so forth and so on. I just think that's one of those things. Side note, is it me or is Jay-Z looking like an old father now?
First of all, the fact that he's still, you talking about him still talking about selling drugs, but he's been a rapper a million and longer than he sold drugs.
Absolutely. Facts.
Facts.
And he's looking like an old father now, and I gotta say, I like it. I like it. That's my point, because now you have accepted this role of fatherhood. You don't have to be young Hove anymore. You did all that shit. So when I see you with your dreads, or you walking around in your flip-flops and you got the kids out, I actually like that shit. That's grown man shit, right? So Jay-Z's a billionaire, but his success is somebody else's failure, right? Because we talk, that's not a lot of money. It's a lot of money from a hood standard, from where he came from. And again, I'm not hating. I'm a Jay-Z fan, not a Jay-Z stan, right? So Jay-Z started out probably trying to get $1 million early on. When I get $1 million, it's real, right? But now he has set the bar at $1 billion.
Like, if he woke up with $1 million in his account, he probably
died.
Yeah.
But there was a point where $1 million was the goal.
Right.
And I'm only saying that to say there's some 10-year-old kid somewhere who's now saying, fuck $1 million. Jay-Z has now set the bar at $1 billion. So I'm not even trying to flex on y'all until I get a bill. And then when I get one bill, I'm going to try to get $5 billion. So I give Jay-Z credit for setting that standard, because somebody set the standard for him. The dude with the, what's that car? In 1985, it was a green 5 that nobody had seen or something. One of them songs. He said, you know what I'm saying? Where he was saying when he saw that dude with that car, he knew. So I'm not downplaying the billion, but there's a lot more work to do. And Jay-Z sets it here. It's going to be somebody else's goal to set it here. And that's how we grow. So what's free?
What's your favorite Jay-Z song?
My favorite, probably Hard Knock Life. I like that. And I love the whole Reasonable Doubt album. So in that sense. But what's free? Right? It means different things to different people.
Yeah.
Free is when you never ever have to touch your toes. Free is when you never ever have to take an oath. Like, don't get me started on what free means to me. You know what I mean? So it's different levels to that shit. You know? So